Okay, so getting ready for today, sit quietly with your eyes gently closed, and we will begin in the same fashion as we normally do. So we'll begin with the sound of Om. 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 Sahana bhavatu, sahano bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahe, tejasvinavaditamastu, ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So thank you everyone for joining today. And today we've kind of got a bit of a strange sort of talk where we're going to be mainly talking about just trying to, shall we say, put in practice some of the things that we have learned so far. So this is the, I think the 15th talk. So for 14 talks, we've kind of been talking about some of the concepts, some of which have been a little bit more abstract than others. But now it is, today we'll make a small attempt to kind of say, right, okay, now we know some of these things and what do we do and how we kind of relate that to our life in a way that is a bit more direct than what we have done so far. So I will inevitably go back on some of the talks and which you can go back to. So basically, one of the things that I did is I went to the previous talks, and then in a lot of them, at the end, I had something which was a slide which was almost called like implications for myself. And obviously, when you hear these things for the first time, we didn't go in very much detail about what this means for me and how I can use them. So today is an opportunity to actually explore that. And again, you know, as I've said before, none of my talks are like thrillers or anything like that. They are not, you know, there's no suspense, there's nothing new. All of this you would have heard before, and all of this we will hear, and you might, and I can, you know, I know for sure that you've heard it in previous lifetimes as well. So it's not the first time, and it's, you know, it's just the same thing that we're going to go through, but then with an you know, every time we go with it, it's with a different mindset and getting us a chance to understand things a bit more. So what we kind of have learned so far is that happiness does not lie in objects. I think, or in, you know, this is pretty clear, because if that was the case, then the same objects should give the same happiness to all of us. And we know that's not the case. Some of us like some things and some of us don't like some things. So, so therefore, if the happiness was the nature of some objects, then we would all have to experience the same thing, and that's not the case. And also, happiness does not lie in people. So, and we've kind of this is not meant to be in a kind of wrong sort of way. It's not saying that people are not important. It's not saying that they, you know, we can't be happy with being with people. It's not what we're saying. But ultimately, lasting happiness does not lie with others. So we know that, you know, as people ourselves, even us, we you know, we're not consistent in what we feel. So today we're like, oh, I really like this, and then tomorrow, oh, I can't be bothered with this. So we all go through these things and we're not consistent. and other people around us are not consistent as well. And that's a fact. Okay, so, and even a very, very loving mother is sometimes kind of like, oh, I'm just too tired now and I can't deal with this child anymore. And, you know, it's just normal. And we're all subject to this. And it's not a judgment, but it's a fact. Okay. And also what we know about people, us, how we relate to people is that we love as long as others behave in the way we want them to. As long as people do what we want them to do, then we're very happy with them. But the moment they start challenging our values or they start challenging certain things that we don't like, then we're just like, I'm not very sure about this person, or this is doing my head in. So, you know, this is the way it goes. And that's the fact of life. And similarly, we are liked as long as we act in accordance to what others want. You know, our bosses at work love us when we do things that they want us to do, and you know, even our partners or whoever else, or you know, this is how it goes. And as long as we can contribute to society in a way society looks after us, and once we can't do anything, then nobody cares. You know, generally speaking. And that's the way it is. And that's a fact of life. And the sooner we realize this, the better it is. So where this kind of tells us is that we cannot depend on the world. So by the world, I mean, you know, the external objects and people and etc. for our own happiness. So really, happiness is something that lies within us and in our control. Okay, so we might not feel that way all the time, but it is our very true nature. So then why is it that we don't always feel that way? I mean, happiness is our nature, but then we spend a lot of time being upset. We spend a lot of time being disappointed. We spend a lot of time being angry. And why is that? So what the Vedas and the philosophy say, it is because we ignore who we really are. And we don't know some of the facts of life about ourselves. So and that is why, because we kind of get very involved in what's going on around us, and then we kind of tend to forget who we really are. And that's the truth of the matter. It's as simple as that. So, you know, like we all go through these phases when something happens. All we can do is ruminate. We think about these things endlessly. And, you know, so then what happens is that we identify endlessly with some things, with our emotions or something. And then in that process, we think, actually, all this is happening to me, not my emotions. So it is this problem which kind of makes us feel that you know, we can't experience this happiness all the time. So that is as simple as this. So this was what we looked at a little bit in the first talk. So I'm not going to go sequentially with the talk, but then what we kind of said is that when we looked at Vedic wisdom, so Vedic is the adjective from Vedas, which is a set of scriptures that we looked at. And so all what I teach, what we're looking at, comes from the Vedas. So it's not anything that's made now. And we all know that if you want to revisit 12, is that what we believe is that none of this is actually man-made. So this was revealed to us by the creators through the wise man, through the wise rishis, etc. So what the Vedas have to offer is this complete guide to, or the complete map, if you like, to guide us through this journey that we are all on, whether we like it or not. So none of us kind of reject happiness. Nobody says, oh, my goal in life is to be sad. And that's because sadness is not our nature. So all of us strive to be happy. And that's because that's our nature. So we all go to the source, we all go to our nature, and that's the way everything happens. So we go to our source. So what the Vedas offer is really this most comprehensive guide about, when I mean the Vedas here, I talk about the whole of the literature, if you like, the whole philosophy. And so what it tries to do is it gives us step by step what we need to do to achieve this. And the greatest thing about this is it is not something that's asking us to believe. So it's not a belief. So it's not something that we are asked to believe at all. So nobody, no true teacher will ask us to kind of say, oh, I'm telling you, so therefore it's true, you have to believe me. So I think what it really encourages people to do is to understand, is to question, is to challenge. And then only we kind of begin to really understand. I mean, there are these 3 steps that we talked about. Is what we need to do is to listen to these kind of talks. So the same thing over and over again, expressed in different ways. So basically, the essence of the Vedas can be expressed in one sentence: I am that. And that's all it says. And then it has this whole body of literature that kind of helped us to understand this, because this concept is not one that is very intuitive to any of us. So therefore we need to keep listening to all sorts of to the same talks a lot of time, to talks by different people, and sometimes another explanation might kind of click a bit better for us. But then we've got to be careful about whom we listen to, because there's a lot of misconception. There is a lot of things that are not true, and that causes a lot of confusion. So I think I've mentioned it before. So if you want recommendations about who to listen to, I can provide that. And then that's the first step, is just to keep listening. So we can spend all this lifetime just listening. That's fine if that's what we have to do. But then the next step is to actually question and try and make sense of this, and also putting this puzzle a little bit together. So, trying to link these a little bit. So we've said that before, we're now saying this. Does that make sense to me? How do I feel about this? Does that feel right to me? Or is there something that, that doesn't quite make sense? So it is up to us to ask these questions so that we can then seek the answers. So the answers are there. And so we have to question them, understand them, and reflect. So just by listening to these talks once a month, we're going to be missing out on a lot more that can happen. So it's already very good to be doing this, but if we want more changes in our lives, then we need to do a little bit more and start actually questioning and understanding a bit more. And then comes the step of where we actually trying to experience some of the things for ourselves and really feel that connection. So this is something that I haven't kind of mentioned before, is about this whole of this knowledge. So what it is said in the Vedas is that this knowledge is not accessible to all. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 people today, and there'll be a bit more, about 10, 12, 15 for an asana class. And so it's just to say that this knowledge is not everybody's cup of tea. So and what it is also believed is that if we are being exposed to it, it's certainly a real blessing to be exposed, and it is our karma to be exposed to this knowledge. So it is something that we have done before ourselves, for ourselves, by ourselves, that kind of brings us to this position. So sometimes people kind of come to this knowledge and then get it straight away. It's not because they are super clever or anything like that. It's just because all the preliminary work they've done in previous lifetimes. So it's just very, very sequential about what happens. And we all need to go through this. So what I'm trying to say is that this is a real privilege. And if it is something that speaks to you, and it is something that you feel attracted to or interested or curious then it is something that you need to explore. And again, you know, as I've said before, the greatest thing is not like, oh, you have to convert, you have to do anything, or it's not anything like that. And a lot of people from various cultures as well who've done this, or who've kind of embraced this as a bit of as a way of life, they've said, you know, even within their own cultural context or their own religious context, bringing this knowledge to their own religious context enriches their connection to Christ or to Buddha or to, you know, so really it is the marvelous thing about this is that there is space for wherever you are, for whatever your inclination is, to find your own path within it. So I think this is something really marvelous about this, and I think it's one of the only paths that actually embraces all that together, to help us find where we are and what we want to do. So really, what happens, what we said earlier on, is that, you know, we get so involved in the external world about, you know, we want to know what mist is, what fog is, and, you know, we want to know everything about the virus, or you know, we want to know about things, but then, you know, we don't have time to really ask the question, but who we are, who is asking these questions, who is it who want to know. And again, this is the only this is this is a great place to find. This is the only kind of literature about us. So the whole thing is only about us. So who am I? You know, this is the only truly thing about us. Otherwise, everything else that we read is about something else. Okay, so and we get so involved in everything else that's going on and so immersed, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then in the meantime, what we do is we forget all this connection with our true source and who we really are. Not a lot of people are just not interested, and that's okay. You know, I mean, we've got to respect where people are in their lives, and that's absolutely fine. But if you're here today, that's because you've got an interest, and it's something that is worth pursuing. So to do so requires a certain discipline, a certain way of life. And also we want to train the mind, as I said, and then educate the intellect so that we don't get drawn so much into what is going on that we forget who we are. So basically, this is the practice to do. I'll talk in a lot more detail here. So to be able to do that, we need to kind of understand you know, the world, the place of the world, and us, and what we are, and actually to help us not to be drawn so much into the world. This is not saying we have to give up everything, we don't have to enjoy everything. It's not that at all, but it is just to create enough space for us so that, you know, even in our lives now, with our busy lives, with our lives living in big cities or small cities or wherever, we can actually still do this practice wherever we are, and we don't have to disappear anywhere else. So this is so the next bit is, I just wanted to briefly talk about, so what we learned around the three bodies and the three states. So we kind of learned that I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, I'm this immortal self. And my true nature is Sat, Chit, and Anand, so which is existence, bliss, and knowledge. This is what it is. And we know this because we've all experienced this. In deep sleep, this is what happens. So I'm not going to go into the whole details of what we used, what we learned in each of these talks. But the thing that I want to also say is we explored this idea about who God is. And God is the creator, and God is well, there is nothing but God, is what the scriptures say. So it's not, you know, sometimes we kind of say, oh, does God exist? But then this is kind of going the other extreme and saying, well, actually, other than God, there is nothing else. So whatever is manifested, whatever we are, or whatever is God manifesting in our form and shapes. So everything is God, or the creator. So this is, I mean, this is slightly a bit of a difficult concept, so that we can talk about this a lot more. But this is what the teaching is. So there is nothing but God, and so then we also looked briefly at the theory of karma and free will. So, and this actually, the Vedas provides the best known explanation to some of these basic facts about, you know, why was I born in this family? Why have I got black hair and curly hair? Why am I not so skinny as maybe I would have wished to be, or, you know, anything like that? Why are these things, and why, you know, and also why do bad things happen to good people? I mean, this is something, you know, that we always say is, you know, so when something happens, you're like, oh, but that person doesn't deserve this. This shouldn't have happened, and I can't understand this. And so the theory of karma kind of explains that to us in a sense that saying, well, there is the creator that keeps an account of whatever happens, and these things that happen over lifetimes kind of come to fruition, if you like, in this lifetime, and then this is why we're experiencing some of the things that we're experiencing. And then we also know that there are some things about us that we can't change. We can't change where we are born now, but then we have determined where we were born in some ways based on our past things that we've done. So really, I think, well, this is very helpful to understand, because it's not chance. It is not, you know, we can say, oh yeah, just by chance I'm lucky to, you know, to be living in a developed country where, you know, I've got everything that I need or whatever. It's nothing is chance. And but what chance means is the cause is unknown to us, but it's not unknown to Ishvara, or to the creator. So really, this kind of helps us to really put into context some things, because as we all know, there are loads of things that happen in our lives that we'll never be able to explain, and that is it. So the other thing that is very helpful about the theory of karma to help us realize is, you know, help us to cope better when tragedy happens. I mean, obviously we make some choices and things happen. You know, if you want to cross the road when the car's coming, then that's a choice that you're making. But for things that we don't directly make a choice now, that happens to us, then when tragedy strikes or when good things happen, then the theory of karma helps us to really appreciate what has gone on and understand why things are the way they are. And then also it helps us to gracefully accept the situations we are in, you know. I mean, it's not beating ourselves up and saying, oh, what did I do, you know, 5 births ago or whatever. We don't know these things. But it is sometimes helpful to just know, okay, you know, it's nobody else's fault. You know, it's not because, you know, somebody did something, but it's because, you know, something I did, and it's fine. I mean, you know, we have to have compassion towards ourselves and not try and understand these things, because we will never be able to. And the only, you know, it's only the creator that understands everything and knows everything, and we can't do that. So that's the, you know, not in this form and body, and that's the thing that we need to accept. And it's also really, so I just mentioned about this thing about taking responsibility for our own actions. It is sometimes very easy to blame people for what have happened to us or what's happening. But then, you know, sometimes if we take a step back and say, okay, you know, I'm suffering, I'm in this, you know, just say in this relationship that's not working and whatever, but okay, this person maybe is not doing what they need to do, but then it is because, you know, it is because I'm experiencing all this, because it's my karma as well. I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't do anything about it. You've got free will to do something about it, but you know, it's just to understand and accept some of the things, and of course, give us the wisdom to change some of the things that we can change, and then accept the things that we can't change. Right, so that's probably there's a prayer along those lines, isn't it? Give me the wisdom to to change what I can change and accept what I can't change. And that is something really, really great in life to practice and to understand, you know, when something's happened, okay, can I do something about it? No. Then worrying about it all night is not going to help. But if I know there's something I can do about it, then I come up with an action plan, right? So this is quite a helpful guide for us to know where we need to act, what battles are ours to fight and what battles are not. So again, so I'll come back to this thing about not comparing. So I think what I wanted to say here is that, again, because why we're in the situation we are in, we'll never know. And that is one of the big reasons why we can't be comparing ourselves with others. You know, sometimes we kind of tend to do that. It's very human. And it is something that's been ingrained in us from the time when we were very little. You know, when Snow White asks, "Oh, who's the prettiest?" You know, to the, you know, so we've been trained to ask that, you know, "Oh, you've got the most beautiful whatever," and "Oh, you're the prettiest girl," or, you know, all these things, and we are meant to, we're kind of trained or to be the best, or to compare. Oh yeah, you know, and that's what our education system does to us, wants us to become competitive, and you know that's but then that's not what spirituality is about. Is saying that we can't compare because we are in these different situations based on our karma, based on, you know, and we've all got. And I think I might have mentioned this before, but there was an inspirational, motivational speaker who kind of said something along the line that, you know, we all have different exam papers, you know, in our life, and then we can't copy each other's questions because answers, because the questions are different. Okay, so we're all in very, very different situations, and therefore comparing us with others is a very, very fruitless activity. And it's something that you know, that when we start thinking about it, that comparing ourselves with others is something that is at the source of a lot of our problems. You know, that's where jealousy comes, where you kind of think, oh, but then at work, this person, you know, didn't have to do this. Why is that? Because we're comparing ourselves, and then we're comparing ourselves sometimes we compare ourselves with another image of ourselves that we have, you know, or so this idea of comparing is something that we need to reflect on a little bit about. And kind of think, well, actually, this whole idea of being competitive with ours and with others and being and comparing is something that as yogis and as people who are practicing and living this, we should kind of not think about too much or at all. Okay, so okay, I think I will not go through this, but so the next, whoops. Okay, so now, well, all these lectures that we've seen so far, the question that we can ask ourselves, so how do we put these in practice? What do we do? How do we make a change in our life based on this? So so one of the things that we need to do is to have a daily practice. So by a daily practice, it is taking time out to connect with the divine, whatever your notion of the divine is, and to devote this to your spiritual pursuit. So it doesn't have to be a long thing. It can take any form that you want, any practices that you like. So it can be just sitting and closing your eyes and thinking about, you know, or it can be repeating a mantra. It can be doing asanas if you like to do asanas. But then again, when you're doing asanas, it's doing it with a purpose. It's training the mind. It is about, you know, you start with an intent, which is why we always start our asana class with a prayer. And that's why we do it all the time. It is kind of connecting us. It's using that time to connect us to the divine. And we can use anything that we do to do that. So even if we just lie down in Shavasana, as long as you're not going to sleep, even that, if you for a bit, is a good way to do. Observing your breath, any practice. And then there are loads of other mantra repetition. And there are also something which is, where you can write things down. You can write a mantra. By a mantra, it can be a Vedic mantra, or it can be something that you want to write for yourself. It could be, something like, I am enough, or I love myself, or anything, to yourself based on what you're working on at the moment. That is something. And just focusing on that, focusing the mind. And also this idea is really to try and focus the mind, because we live in a world where all, where multitasking is kind of seen as a great achievement. But that's a myth. I mean, it's the worst thing that we could do, right? So forget about multitasking. The whole spiritual practice is about concentrating on one thing and doing one thing very well at one time. So, I mean, obviously, sometimes you've got to do a few things at a time. I'm not saying don't do it, but it's not, in line with what a spiritual practice does. So spiritual practice is about one pointed mind and about fixed on something, and generally it is the divine. But anything that is meaningful and that is sattvic. So you might remember this word that we used, sattvic, that is would be helpful. So the idea of having a daily practice is to practice, is to decide what works for you. So basically, obviously, if you've got a full-time job and you want to do a 4-hour practice every morning, that's you're doomed to fail, right? So what you want is something very, very doable, 10 minutes a day or whatever, and try and keep it at the same time. And then also try and do the same thing. Okay, so we also live in a world where varieties is glorified, right? So we need about 200 types of cereals at the supermarket. I mean, we just need one to survive. Okay, so basically, we don't have to find a lot of varieties of things to keep us entertained. We have just one thing that we like. Within this, if you want to change things a little bit, then that's fine. But by the by, it is something that is, because then what you don't want to do is, you don't want to sit and think, okay, today, what am I doing? How am I doing this? So you just have one thing, you just go and do it. Okay, so it's just something to have that time, and also again, to choose whatever you choose, and to do it with compassion to yourself. I mean, obviously, if it's really not going to work on one day, then that's fine. It is accepting yourself for that, accepting the fact that it is okay. It's not the end of the world, and it doesn't mean we're a loser if we can't do it. It doesn't mean that we'll never be able to do it either. It doesn't mean it's time to quit. It is just saying, yeah, okay, so this has happened, and this has happened because of this. Okay, so maybe I'll now try and do things a bit differently, or whatever. So it's to do it with compassion with ourselves, to ourselves, with judgment, without judgment to ourselves, and again, without this thing of comparing, because we might see, oh, but this person can do it, and this person is, and why can't I? So all this needs to go. Okay, so we need to accept what we can do as an offering and do it ourselves. So then I've put here, live life as a karma yogi. So I'm going to explain what that means in a few moments, a little bit more. And then we also looked at the yamas and the niyamas. So the in previous lectures. So it is thinking. I'll revise them in a moment. So it is kind of taking one or two at a time, and then work on them very, very carefully. So I'll briefly talk about these. So I can probably talk about karma yoga for a few hours, but I'm just going to do it really quickly here. So about karma yoga, what we said is that it's not to be confused with the theory of karma that we've just talked. Karma yoga doesn't necessarily refer to different actions that we have to do. It doesn't mean free labor. It doesn't mean service to, to the poor necessarily, or anything like that. And also, it doesn't mean something in exchange of something else, which is how it's getting used in the Western world. And then some people wrongly say karma yoga is about doing things without expectation, and that's a very, very wrong notion as well, because we never do anything. We can't do anything without expectation, right? So we we drink because we expect it to quench our thirst. If we, otherwise we won't do anything. If we don't have any expectation, nothing will ever get done. So that's not true. But I will explain what it means. So what karma yoga means is that it's mainly an attitude. So whatever we do, we don't have to change anything that we do, but we can change the way we do it. And it is actually truly revolutionary. And because nothing changes, right? So you go to the same job, you do the same thing, you do, everything is the same, but inside of you, nothing is the same and never will be the same again. And that change is the only thing that we can do, right? So we can't, sometimes we find that people kind of change from one job to another and to another. There's no problem with that. But then at the end of the day, a job is a job. And then some people kind of can get very lucky and find themselves in a situation where, yeah, okay, this is perfect now. But then otherwise, things will keep happening, and we can't keep moving. We can't, and then we just in a world where, people pre-COVID, people were kind of thinking, oh, the weather is terrible in the UK, so I'm going to live in Spain for a bit, and then I'm coming back, and then now this is this, so I'm going to do this. And so yeah, you can escape some of it, but then at the end of the day, if we change our personal attitude, then we don't have to be running around. We don't have to be we can be very, very content in our situation, in our circumstances, very easily. So basically, karma yoga means that I have to do good for myself and to the society. So that's essentially what it means. So it means that, what I think the way I explained it before, and I'm going to explain it in the same way, is that it is a noble action versus non-noble. So there's nothing wrong with doing things that are just beneficial for us. But if we want to be a real karma yogi, we will do some of the actions, even with the attitude that it's for more than for us. So we're working for a company, so it's not just for us and our pay, but it is to help society. You're delivering goods to somebody, or you're teaching kids, you are treating patients, you are making art for others to enjoy. So it's not just about you, but it's about a bigger problem. A bigger purpose, sorry, not problem. And also to understand that we all have a purpose, and we want to do very well what we have to do. And this doesn't mean, we have to start doing revolutionary things. We have to go out of our way, and very little things. A mother caring for her child is karma, is something greater than just for herself. And smiling at a stranger, or just being kind to others, and just being, all these things are things that I'm talking about. So I'm not talking about, you've got to go and do challenging things, you've got to raise money, or it's nothing like that, but just the attitude with which we do it, and the intent with which we do it is something that is going to change a lot. So even our job, when we think about about why we're doing it and who is benefiting from it and all that kind of stuff, then it really changes some of the way we think about it. But now, more importantly, I was talking about the attitude. So so here, it is when we're doing things, we're seeing the divine in everything. So we know that whatever we're doing we are dedicating our actions to Ishvara, because we know that we are kind of living in this world where everything is under the spell of Ishvara. So, and it helps us to kind of not think you know, everything is happening because of me. The company can't work without me. This world doesn't happen without me. And, you know, but it's not that. It is kind of appreciating yourself, but then having the humility as well. And also, whatever we do is to do it with commitment. And more importantly, it is about love to do what needs doing and not do what we love to do, because what we love to do is not necessarily always good for us. Okay, so it might be in the short term, but then it's not necessarily always good for us, and it will not always be. But then if we start doing loving what we have to do, then life changes. You know, if you resentfully make food every day for the family, then that's not going to change. If that's going to be your job, you know, that's something that you have to do, then the sooner you learn to love this privilege of feeding your family, the happier you'll become. Okay, so I'm not saying we all need to go and cook, but you understand what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that, you know, just choosing the activities that what we like is not what will make us happy, because we don't really know what we like sometimes. And, you know, and there's always these things, these circumstances in life where we find ourselves in a way that in situations where actually we have to do certain things, whether we like it or not. Okay, so a lot of people don't like getting up in the morning, but then, you know, and which is fine, but then you've still got to do it because you've got to go to work, you know. So but then actually making this or something that you love to do in some ways, all this is doable, right? So it's not fiction. So all this making us change the way we think is about things is very, very possible, right? So one of my teachers said something that I really like. You know, we've all done it. Like when we were little, we were all attached to this one toy. We couldn't go to sleep if that toy was not there, but then we grew out of it. Okay, so now if you go back and look at some pictures, or your parents tell you, oh, you used to like this, and you'll be laughing, right? So we grow out of things. We can change, and there are things that we can do. It takes a bit of practice. It takes a bit of, you know, but that's something that we actually can do. So really, the secret to happiness is to start loving what we have to do rather than do what we have to, what we love. I mean, if you can, you know, if what you have to do is what you love anyway already, then you're a winner. Okay, so then that's your good karma, and be thankful for it, and enjoy it, you know. So but for most of us, there are some things that we have to do that we don't like, you know, whether it's filling tax forms or anything like that, but we have to do them or whatever. So it's just, you know, changing our attitude, and it makes a massive difference. So and then the other thing about karma yoga is around accepting what happens. So the results of my actions. So there are 4 types of results that we can get. Okay, so every action that we do. Okay, so you came here today and you think, okay, so Andrew is talking about something which is to my expectations. So yeah, that's fine, no problem. So you'll be okay. And then if I kind of tell you some things that really resonate with you, then I might have exceeded your expectation. And then if you come and then everything that I'm saying is everything that you know already and you are an expert at it, and then you're like, oh, this is rubbish. Okay, so then I'll have delivered below your expectations. And then there would be something that is completely opposite. You know, so maybe you thought that you were coming to a happiness and yoga here talk, and then I'll be like, okay, so we're going to have an asana class right now, and you're all full of dinner or something like that. That's not going to work. So that's an opposite reaction. So really, a lot of these things of the results of my action, of our action, do not depend on us. Some of it does, but some of it do not, because it depends on other people. So it depends on what, if we use the same example, it is what I tell you today depends on what's happened and how tired I am and how much time I've put in preparing for today and how much thought I've given to it, and all that kind of stuff, and whether technology is helping us, or all these things. So which we've got to understand that we're not in control of this, only Ishvara is. So therefore, our duty is to do what the best we can do, and then whatever comes, we accept it as an offering, as an offering of the Lord, by the Lord. So for those who understand the term, is prasadam. So when you go to the temple, you're given something, a little bit of food or a little bit of water as an offering. So when we are given these offerings, we're not meant to kind of comment on, oh, this tastes very nice, or this is very good. So we just take what is given as a blessing and accept it. So everything in life we have to take with that same attitude. So in a lot of Indian homes, or people start their day with prayers and make an offering, and the attitude with which you receive the offering, or whatever is a bit of dry fruit or a bit of fruits that you offer the Lord, and you have a little bit of yourself to consume, or a bit of water even, then the whole thing is to kind of to see it is that throughout the day, this is how I'm going to accept what is coming my way. So so whatever comes is accepted as this offering, with that same attitude that I did accept this offering in the morning, for instance. So this is the whole idea of prasadam, or an offering that we get the privilege of taking. So it's an attitude. But then, so you'll see that, people even in temples, and they're like, oh yeah, I made better one than you, or, it's like about taste, it's about, and a lot of the purpose of what these things are and the meaning behind these things get very, very, very lost. Okay. So it is, so everything that happens, our duty ends as soon as we've done our best. And then what result, we don't know. Okay, so when we're going to be making Christmas dinner in a few days' time, we put things in the oven, and how they come, we've done our preparation, we've timed everything, and then something comes out, and it's like, oh, it's like, yeah, okay, fine, I can't control this, I can't control the temperature, I can't control all the other things that happens, and that's okay. It's not the end of humanity, it's not the end of life, or it's not, it's fine. So it's this attitude of being able to accept things in a way that that happens, that we can't change, and also so I'll talk about these some other time, but then, there are loads of hidden variables of things, of why things happen. And prayer is always a good one to kind of ward off some of the things that, we might use prayers to change some of the ways that things are meant to happen or happen. But there are other ways here. So this is karma yoga. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that if we use our daily life without changing anything, so when you next do something, if we start doing it with the attitude of karma yoga, and with a constant practice, and with our daily practice to help to give us the strength to keep on this practice of, all the time, and that is a game changer. Nothing changes. Our responsibilities don't change, and we all know that. Okay, so that is something that really will make a massive difference at our life at whatever point we are. And so I'm not going to go through these, and I just wanted to bring up the yamas and the niyamas. So the yamas is about harmlessness, so to not cause harm to anyone, and it's not just violence. So it is around it's about emotional harm, and it is thinking, even at the point of your thinking, or or talk, the way we talk, and the way we give somebody a silent treatment or anything like that, just so it is to kind of think about all these, and to practice truthfulness, not just to others but to ourselves, be honest with ourselves and to others. And this idea about abstention from theft. So theft seems a bit like, I think most of us will be thinking, oh, but I don't thieve. But theft here means that we are taking more than we are contributing to. Okay, so if we are putting a drain on the environment, and if we are, if we're doing so much wrong to the environment and we're not doing anything to preserve it, to look after it, then we are thieves. Okay, so it is a different kind of interpretation of it. So, and then here, brahmachari here just means practicing the presence of God. So it is walking in the awareness of the highest reality. So it's not just always thinking about our desires, about the things that we do. And then again, so this one again is about not be greedy, again, not taking anything extra from what we need. Okay, somebody did say that the world has enough resources for all what we need, but doesn't have resources to feed our greed. Okay, it can feed us, but it can't feed our greed, and that's what this is about. And then the next one that we looked at was purity here, but purity is about not just purity in the cleanliness kind of way, but in the purity of the mind and our thinking and then the practice of contentment. So a lot of people do these and there's all these gratitude things and things that you're grateful for, and to practice what we have, and to practice appreciating what we have, and then to train ourselves and to have a disciplined life in a way. It doesn't mean military kind of, but it is having discipline in our life, and that's the greatest thing that we can do for ourselves. And there is this idea that discipline is a really bad thing, and it's something we rebel, and that's something that school has done to us, and it's the way that discipline has got this very loaded connotation, but that's not what it is. It is about disciplining our mind, and it's about training our mind rather than discipline, if you like. It's training. And then it is spending time to learn more about the philosophy, about the study of the self, about ourselves, and then practicing Ishwara Pranidhan, which means practicing the presence of God, if you like, and acknowledging that. And then, so I think I'm going to, so to end really, what I want to say is that whatever practice that we choose to do, it gives us the strength to cope with life. So there is a lot that happens, and really to have that emotional strength to deal with things that happen in a way that's very helpful to us. It is something that is fantastic. And so basically what we need to do is to constantly strive to analyze ourselves with compassion, without judging, without, is to constantly strive to learn why we do things. Why have we done something that we, before? Why do I act in this way? Is to spend that time reflecting on our behavior. And it's actually wanting to see the truth about ourselves. And it's not even being accountable to others. It's just to ourselves. So some people have got good friends to do that. Some people have got partners. Some people have got teachers who do that to them. And, or you might just do it yourself. And Swami Shivananda used to talk about the idea of having a spiritual diary, about, where you kind of write down some of the things about what you do. And, so today I've told one lie, or, whatever, but it's something very personal to yourself. But it is actually, we can only do this if we kind of realize that actually we want to change. We want to make change to our lives. I mean, if we don't want to make change to our life, then we're not here. We're not listening to this talk, and we're not doing this at all. But the fact that we're all here is indicative to me that we're all in this game of wanting to better ourselves, and I mean, not better, but to make our lives easier. And so the key to establishing a strong practice is to be true to where we are and have patience with ourselves, compassion, and realistic. So choose one thing to do and at a specified time. And the idea is to do it every day without missing, or but then if you do miss, then it's fine, just recalibrate yourself and get back to it. I mean, we all do that, and it's not a problem, but it's to strive, is to know what you're striving for. And then how do we know whether we're succeeding in this thing? So when we know that we're succeeding, is that life becomes a true joy. Everything feels quite easy, and and you feel happy. You love to do what needs to be done rather than murmur and complain about it all the time. Or we're not always striving just to do what we want and avoiding our responsibilities and things that we need to do. There's not that constant thing, oh, I need to do this now, I need to go, it's really gives us that. Life truly becomes a joy. Everything we do, there's no special time for Diwali, for Christmas. Every day is Christmas. Every day is Valentine's Day, and I'm not even exaggerating. Things are in such harmony with everything else that I mean, it's again not saying that you won't ever be sad, or it's not saying that, but it's just saying when these things happen, you can bounce back quite quickly. You understand this, we're not going to go into depression for ages and ages, and we understand what it is. I mean, sometimes things might take a while, and it takes questioning everything else. It's fine, and that's great as well, because that's how we grow. But it is saying that we understand these things, we understand the nature of our emotions, we understand all these things, and then slowly some of the practices we move slowly towards sattva, which is purity, which is where there is a state of balance in what we do, and and we find that harmony where life becomes a true joy. So so this is what I wanted to talk about a little bit today. So just to say that our next interactive class is on January the 2nd. So we're going to have an interactive class, and I'll explain why in a bit. And then the next talk is on the 16th of January. So we're doing it vice versa next time. So I just wanted to say that. So I will just end with a closing invocation. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.